Andrea Davis, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm so happy to have you here. World-class family constellation facilitator, work with some of the most impressive names on the entire globe. But I actually just want to get right in with you and talk to you about what it means to be alive. What do you think living is really all about?
For me, what means to be alive, especially in these times where there's no bystanders, the things that make me tick are love, creativity, beauty, sexuality, connection, and helping other people get where they're going is a calling of mine because I also want to get where I'm going in this lifetime.
Yeah. What is that? What do you mean by no bystanders?
Oh my God, these are such, it's a polarity planet, as we've always learned on in Kundalini. What does that actually mean?
Yeah.
Half the world is talking about the crisis we're either in or hurling towards, and the other half of us are talking about how to bring more love, more connection, more beauty. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So it's a polarity planet. You got to choose sides. There are no bystanders right now.
I see. Yes.
So we're warriors for love. We're warriors for peace. We're warriors for connectivity.
Right.
But we are fiercely doubling down on love right now.
Yeah, that you have to engage. That there's no sort of like sitting on the sidelines. You got to get in the game.
Yeah. If there ever was, yes, now is not that time. And since we don't want to engage in the conversation of how terrible things are, we have to offer people an alternative, like a fun alternative.
Yes.
Like, this is what I want to do with my life force. This is what I want to do with my time.
This is what you help people with primarily at this point in your work.
Yes. Well, first of all, the thing about talent is first you find out you have a talent, and then at a certain point you decide what you want to pour your heart into and your life into and your energy into if you have talents in many areas. So I work with people who are sure that they want to do something, but they're not exactly sure what they want to do with their time and talent and what will feed and enliven them the most. And I'm very good at helping people articulate what they feel their calling is. Like, literally, I ask people, what are you doing here on planet Earth? It's good to know. And it's good to be able to be succinct enough about it that you know at the end of every day, was I living my calling? Did I help people get where they're going today? Most days, yes. By definition, I would only want to go be helped by someone who themselves was living what I was looking for. Right. So am I getting where I'm going today already? Yes, because I'm here with you. Yes.
I know. It's such a special day. I want to take it back a little bit because I have such a background on you and your work and who you are, but obviously people listening don't have this background. So I do want to take it back to, I said I wasn't going to do this, but I want to take it back to the comedy writer days, West Hollywood, and like just share that evolution into family constellation work. Sure.
Okay. Well, I was a small child. No, you know what? And when I read people's biographies, I never want to read about the small town they were born in and the car their father drove. It's like, could you please get to the part where I really want to know you? But I will say this. There are certain markers, as you know, from having children that are already there. Yeah. There's a certain way that even when you're young, you're already broadcasting your potential destiny if someone would just hold you long enough for that to bloom. So my potential destiny, definitely, I'm the all-A kid. Skipped 12th grade, called colleges around the country, who will take me? But I wasn't formed as a person. And what I find now, and I love working with people who are just finishing college, is I wasn't formed as a person, so I was smart enough to jump over 12th grade and get admitted to a couple schools, but I picked broadcasting and film with no idea of who I was as a person.
I feel like self-knowledge is the most important thing. I really do. Because if you know yourself, you can take yourself anywhere, but when you don't know yourself,
I would call those the lost years. It's not that I wasn't going to matriculate and grow emotionally, because anywhere I was, I needed to do those things. But because I'm the all A kid and I picked broadcasting and film, of course I had to come to Hollywood because I wanted to be with the best of the best. And I was. So my career started working for one of the most famous directors in Hollywood at the time, my first job. The next thing I knew, I was in an office. I'm the only one on the lot at Paramount because the rest of them are coming in late. And I'm like, 1 minute I'm outside the gate, and the next minute I'm the only one here because I started work early. So again, I have the ability to rise to the top. It's probably part of my karma to just be the all A kid. And that's why it's so important for me to know what I want to be the all A kid in.
Right, because you can apply yourself anywhere.
Yeah. And so what my heart's desire, this director I worked for was a comedy genius. I've met 3 geniuses in my life. One of them I'm allied with now in Paris. The first one was him, where I went, wow, I'm actually working for a genius. And the second genius I knew is one of my clients. Like, oh, I'm in brilliance here. I'm literally in brilliance. And one of the things I've learned about brilliance is you need allies. Somebody can come to me who's way smarter than me because I'm good at what I do. So we need allies. I really understand that concept. This is also not the time of the Lone Ranger. This is the time of the tribe. And that's what I'm saying about there's no bystanders. There was a time where you wanted to be fiercely independent and do it on your own. Won't work anymore. Who are your allies?
Yeah, it's literally impossible to get anywhere on your own.
And who would want to?
Yeah, I know. In the end, you're just alone.
Yeah.
But wait, okay, so we're...
Okay, so
yeah,
I'm saying Hollywood.
Okay, yes.
So I didn't even pick the right job. I worked for a comedy genius, but I didn't initially have the nerve to be a comedy writer. But that's what I wanted to do. So ultimately, I did sell a true idea about my life to the chairman of the studio. This is a decade after I worked for the comedy genius. And I called him and said, I want to write a movie, but I haven't before. And he's the one who created an opportunity for me 10 years later to write my first movie. And then I was a comedy writer.
Oh my God, Andy,
Yes.
I didn't know. These are things I did not know.
Well,
this is parts of the story I didn't know, but this is good. This is a new story.
Because I come to you for what you know. That's the whole point. Everyone comes to me not for what they know, but for what they're missing that I can facilitate. I come to you when I'm your student for what you know, which is different than what I know. Your ability to connect us with, for me, I'll use the word God in a non-religious but all-encompassing way. Just as recently as us, not kind of co-leading, but me helping you with your retreat. I have never, ever done a prayer where somebody said in 15 seconds, you will be connected to how much power?
It was like 15 trillion volts of electromagnetic power.
While I was doing a prayer that I do all the time. But you're the one that would even know there's a set that will connect us in 15 seconds. You gave us like 15 seconds to prepare to get more power than is imaginable that I poured right into my prayer. So I don't come to you for what I know. I don't know how to do that. You know how to do that.
Totally.
And that's what I mean when I say we need allies with people who have different areas of expertise and passion.
Yeah, absolutely. But I want to fast forward into the family constellation work, because I want people to hear about that transition. I want people to know what it is if they don't know what it is, and then I want that to take us then further into this sort of, because you're a deep adventurer. I mean, I told you just before we got on that one of the things I like about you, one of the things I love, I'm like fiercely passionate about you, is that you live so viscerally from your soul. It's like impossible to be around you and to be sleepwalking. So I want to get into that sort of like also all the other things that you've done to sort of, facilitate and express that part of yourself, the 5 rhythms, the Tantra, the sexuality. But I think that people need this backstory. So you're doing comedy writing.
So I'm doing comedy. I'm funny, but I'm alone in a room.
Yeah.
The short version of family constellation work is I'd never heard of it, but I'd gone to a therapist I hadn't seen in 8 years. And he called me and said to me, I know that I never helped you. I went to him twice a week for 2 years. And then at the end of it, I thought, my idea of living hell, and by the way, cool to be a therapist, cool to see a therapist. It's a step in life. But my idea of living hell is I know everything about why I am who I am, but I can't change. And so that was my experience. It's not, I don't at all say it's not good to see a therapist. I think everyone should know themselves. However, I stopped after that guy, and he called me and he said, I'm bringing a woman here who does this thing called family constellation work, and will you come and spend a weekend? And he offered to pay for me so that I wouldn't refuse that. Now, that led to who I am right now. And I can say briefly, family constellation work has its origins in Sufism. It is very old.
Interesting.
I know, me neither, until I went to a master who told me that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, in Paris.
You were telling me about this, yes.
So the woman who brought it from Germany trained with the person who's considered the father of modern day family constellation work. And he was a therapist who found that people could talk and talk and talk in his office on his couch, but they didn't change or resolve what was wrong. Yeah. And so they had an ally. I use that word a lot. They weren't in their pain or on their journey alone, but it wasn't necessarily resolving. And what family constellation work classically explores is that sometimes we're carrying a burden, not from a past life, but from an ancestor that wasn't resolved. And so you're going to therapy for someone else's problem. Now, the way that I do it, I like to work one-on-one, and I like to work with what's called the soul of your relationship with everything, the soul of your relationship with yourself, the soul of your relationship with other people, the soul of your relationship with the work you want to do, and literally family constellation work, you represent or stand in the energy of whatever the person's exploring. So the first thing I do, because it's my interest, is I ask people, first we do a little opening meditation. During that meditation, there's 2 kind of party tricks to family constellation work if you're good at it. And the first one is while I'm tuning in, which is what I called attunement, deep attunement, I am letting go of my outlook on the world and any of my prejudices, positive or negative, and I'm attuning to the other person's nervous system and psyche so deeply that after the session starts, I can amplify for them what their relationship to reality is, as opposed to what I think about their relationship to reality. So I'm primarily at first interested in, if you had to articulate for yourself or anybody else what you feel your calling is, what you feel you're doing on planet Earth. Now, most people don't get asked that directly, and they don't have an easy answer. I'll get it with them within a few minutes. And then we can ask, like, if you could have anything you wanted in this world, what is your heart's desire? That's easier for people, even if it seems unimaginable. And then the third thing I'll ask them is, are you aware of anything you either feel burdened by or any relationship or situation you want to know more about? Now, that's my take on family constellation work. Someone else might only work with ancestors, but this is what I'm interested in. And I'll just say one more thing. Mm-hmm. Within the first hour, which is unlike therapy, because in therapy, you're discovering at your own rate, and anything you don't say, the therapist mostly isn't going to know. And in this work, I'm attuned so deeply to a person's body within that first hour that I literally, it almost looks like a picture to me, can see whatever unconscious inner conflict they have that is being splattered on their outside life and looks like the problem. Mm. And in regular therapy too, you got to go because you need or want something. It's rarely the root of what needs to be healed. But in this work, I can find it in about an hour. And then I'll do like what feels like a psychic chiropractic adjustment. Mm-hmm. And people, they feel like immensely relieved. But then my mentor is a neuropsychiatrist because, and what he's taught me some things that are really simple to understand and really difficult to do. One of them is that the brain needs repetition, repetition, repetition. As you know, you probably teach the same class over and over and over. On different days, it's received in different ways. We sing the same mantras, even though there's so many of them, over and over and over. Even different singers singing the same words affects our brain. So repetition, repetition, repetition. For once you catch the movement of the soul, it needs to be supported. Otherwise, it's just one more cool thing you did in the day.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to break it down just for the people listening. So, it's just like, I'm going to repeat it and make sure we're on the same page here. So really, family constellation work is this practice of, rather than, we're talking, it's not totally like this, but rather than in talk therapy or cognitive behavioral therapy, which is, I do agree that it is really good. I think it has some limitations. I think many people who have gone through the therapeutic process encounter those limitations at some point. But in this context, part of how you start to solve the problem, so to speak, is actually working it in a psyche-soma kind of way, where you're psychically, somatically moving the both mental and emotional coordinates. Am I getting that right?
Let me see. Well, you're using more like the technical language of Kundalini. Let me see what I would say. First of all, just because we brought up therapy, I always ask people first, have you done deep work on yourself? If I meet someone and they have not done self-exploration, my work just looks weird. So I really like people that have gone as far as they think they can doing what they've done. And really, that's the point where family constellation work found me. I had gone as far as I could in that modality. And now I needed something else, but I didn't even know that there's something else existed. So working on what's called the level of the soul means I'm letting go a little bit of my Andrea-ness so I can connect to your soul and reflect it back to you. And if you really got to talk to your own soul, it's like it's closer than your best friend. It's closer than your hands and feet. It's closer than your breathing. It's like meeting the face of God in you. So that's family constellation work, but that's hard to put on a business card.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm seeing it also just where that you're moving the coordinates of the mind and the emotions so that these things you're going past them. These things that were sort of plaguing the individual are no longer, they're just not there anymore, because whether it was the relationship with the mother that was the problem, or the relationship with the grandfather, or as you said, there's a sort of an energetic electrical pattern that was being passed down over generations. You move them. Well, some therapists move them in a certain session. You are actually mostly just focused on life purpose.
Yes. So here's the thing. I am not working with you on your mother and your father. Yeah. I'm hoping you did that work already. Not that I don't respect your mother and father, but because this work can be used to heal or to explore so many avenues, what I found is what feeds me is if I work in the areas that already feed me. I care about love, all forms of it. I care about sexuality, mine and the expression of it, and also how I see it literally moving through reality in terms of people's creativity. And I care about helping people get where they're going, all otherwise known as your life path. And I'm very good at helping people articulate that, because that is my passion. So I'll work with people by the hour, but I also invite people to Paris for 5 days for what I call the Paris immersion. And then we work together for 5 days and literally sort through the energetic laundry of either anything that's keeping you from your life path or even helping you create your life path. That might result in a business. You might end up married sooner than you expected. I work with people who are in love relationships that are working as opposed to those that are coming apart. Why? Because you have to pick your area of expertise, and also literally because I really believe in the energy bank, at the end of the day, I don't want to be a worn out rag. I want to be filled and stimulated. And I really feel this is what anyone would want from their quote, work life, is that you are filled and energized by how you spent your day helping other people.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I think that's a great place to go into talking about the energy bank. But also, I sort of want to ask this question around, like, how you decided that these were the places you wanted to work in. They fill you up. They give you pleasure and joy. Did this come out of your work with Tantra?
Let's see. No, I'd say it was trial and error. It's almost like if you're, so my father was a cardiologist. Mm-hmm. When you're in medical school, you have to go through every discipline. Very few people already knew when they entered medical school, I only want to do this. Maybe some do, but really they make you go on rotation so you can deliver a baby, do surgery, and you might end up a gynecologist, or in my father's case, a cardiologist. I don't know that he started out saying the heart is the most important thing to me, although interestingly, he was such a heartfelt man. It's the perfect thing for him to spend all day in.
Fascinating.
So I worked in addiction. I worked at some rehabs in California. I worked with newly sober people. I worked with people with more like psychic problems. I would be tired after I worked with those people. I'm sure I helped them, but it wasn't turning me on. Mm-hmm. At this point in life, also because of what I call the energy bank, I could talk about love all day. Mm-hmm. I could talk about love life all day. I could think about sexuality and the expression of it all day.
Like, it wasn't turning me on. I'm like, yes, the turn on.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So I care about what we are so lucky. I mean, everything I do is not because I'm this noble person who floated down to earth with orders from God. Mm-hmm. No, I am the grandchild of immigrants, half of whom were killed for their religion, and then the one that was shoved on the boat alone when he was 14, not speaking English, separated from his family for the rest of his life, arrives in Ellis Island and is given a name that's an American name. And what does he want? He creates a future so that his two sons, one can go to medical school and one can be a lawyer. So he was an immigrant. And I honestly feel this way. When I was in college, being the all-A kid, my dad wrote a check for the college I went to that was more numbers than I'd literally ever seen because I was a kid. I was 17. And he said to me, I wish you were a trust fund baby, but you're not. And every dollar you spend, I earned. And he didn't say it as a guilt thing. It was almost like, and I feel that way now. When I look around at what I have, I go, wow, everything I have, I worked for this. So he made me really have a connection with what had happened for me to get where I was going in a beautiful way. And by that, I also mean, so I didn't die so that I could have religious freedom to practice the way I wanted. And I feel an obligation, since I'm not in a refugee camp and nobody's trying to kill me. And I know I'm treading on all kinds of water because there are people in refugee camps.
This is what you're saying is you have an obligation to truly live.
Yes.
Because there was already enough sacrifice for you to get here. So it's your responsibility to truly live.
It's my responsibility to care about the people that are in the refugee camp. It's my responsibility to care about the immigrants that are trying to get here. My grandfather got here because during that time you could just arrive. And I owe something back to my lineage, and I owe something back to my family, and I owe something back to life because it gave me a chance. And I owe something back to my father because he gave me a chance. And he owes something back to his father. And that's the way I honor my ancestors, which is they died so I could get here, so I could give something back. And before I leave this earth, I'm going to give something back to you. But because I'm also a comedy writer, we're probably going to laugh. You talk about my intensity, and I am intense, but you know what they say about comedy? Comedy is pain plus time equals comedy. So it doesn't, life is so serious that it has to be funny.
Yeah.
Whenever possible.
It's just a part of your story that I love.
Which part?
All of it. I mean, I love your story, but the comedy part where I just like love that's such, you're somebody who's taken risks, who's followed their intuition, who's followed their heart, who maybe has been afraid but hasn't let fear stop them. You're not run by your fear.
Let me just say this. Those all sound super noble. I have literally had people in my life that have picked me up like I was a football when I was a mess and run me across the finish line. So again, allies, because, everything's a vibration to me. Besides the energy bank, the people that you meet, that you vibe with, it's actually a thing. I really vibe with you. Those are your tribe that you're all supposed to be doing this together. And I have been picked up like a football and run across the finish line more times than I can tell you, which is possible. That's probably why I'm in the give back years, I'm not in the struggle, striving, climb the top of the mountain years. I'm in the give back years. And I'm so clear about that. And my family constellation work facilitator, the one I see in Paris, he said to me something so interesting. He said, Andrea, in French, the closer we come to death, the closer we come to God and realizing what we have to give back before we leave this earth. So, the interesting thing about the closer we come to death, no one knows the day or the time or the age of their death. So whenever you get the call, I'd say listen to it, because time is of the essence for all of us. Time is of the essence. And I can't waste my time. I just can't waste my time.
Yeah, I feel that.
But I want to have a good time.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I wonder. I that's something that's always been very present for me. Time is precious. Time is short. I've got this life. The yogis.
If I'm lucky.
The yogis say it takes 8.4 million lifetimes to get a human vehicle. Mm-hmm. To me, that's always been huge, because I've always felt this was very, very precious. So if I have it, I also want to live well. Mm-hmm. But I mean, here we are, God, death, sex. I mean, are these not the most delicious themes?
Yeah. So you asked about Tantra.
I did.
I'm not a Tantra expert, but I'm a Tantra lover.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you the best explanation I ever got about Tantra was I was taught that Tantra is the unending flow of love. That interests me. So Kundalini by its nature is tantric, and it's the point where any two energies touch each other. So it isn't necessarily sexual, but it can, it certainly can be used in a sexual way. So the Tantra of me just putting my finger in the air and feeling it, or smelling like chamomile, or smelling sage, or, all the wonderful smells we smell when we're in nature. Yeah. Anything can be a tantric experience if you are aware of where two things touch each other. Mm-hmm. So it can be very subtle and exquisite. So I love Tantra. Mm-hmm. Love Tantra. Now, applied sexually, there's so much to say. I've had a hunger my whole life to know myself sexually, but I didn't even know I had that until I had the longing for Tantra, because I was sexualized in relationship to men as a heterosexual, or boys, and I had no idea. I didn't come to the party packed with all the right stuffing, let's say. And almost nobody does, So we know life is like a come as you are party. I got packed the way I was. It was almost later in life where I thought, what is my relationship to my own sexuality? And I don't mean Cosmo magazine where I light a candle for one and eat a beautiful dinner by myself. I'm saying, what is my relationship to my own body? And as a woman, when I'm in my feminine, because we have masculine and feminine, but the masculine in me is more the doer and the person that, gets things done. And I'm a lot in my masculine when I'm working, but my energy and my nature is more feminine, which is I receive it in, it goes up through my G-spot, goes up through my heart, and then it goes out to you. And that isn't something I even have to practice. It's where my life is really lived from. I take it in, I bring it up, and I give it out to you. And even while I'm saying that, I literally could melt because that's where I want to live from. I don't do it on the metro in Paris. I don't do it usually when I'm driving in Los Angeles. But a lot of times what I do, unless I'm directly involved in being yelled at by somebody who's driving, is I'm sending it to people. I'm sending it to people in situations where I'm watching them be frustrated. And I really have learned how to take the energy of my heart and connect it to people I would normally be othering and feeling superior to because I'm such a loving person. Again, if you're yelling directly at me, I'm usually in fight or flight, and most likely flight more than fight. But otherwise, I really am, this would be tantric, and this is also where the marriage between Tantra and Kundalini is. Most of the time, I'm offering up the energy of my heart to people that I'm listening to. Sometimes I'll practice on strangers. Like right now, if Robbie, the cameraman, is doing something else, I might just not even look at him and send the energy from my heart to him and see it penetrating his heart and see if he takes a big breath he wouldn't have otherwise taken.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I also learned a lot from Guru Jagat when she was doing courses on sexuality. I've learned how to, I'm telling you this because you can do it too. I've learned how to, in Tantra we learned someone's coming out of a restaurant. You may never see them again. This is if you're single. What if this is the love of your life? Spend that moment when they're walking out of the restaurant and you're walking in and press all the love you have into their heart and see what happens. So I do a lot of tantric experiences and experiments. But the other thing I do is I'll tell you just a beautiful story in Paris because it's
amazing.
so filled with beautiful stories.
All right, fantastic.
We learn in Kundalini, everything that's said is not only true, but applicable. And what I love about Kundalini and my work is it's not about the teacher, it's about you. The teacher, or in this case me, family constellation work, I'm spreading out my consciousness so you can do your work. It's not so you'll be dependent on me. It's so that you'll have more access to you. And I don't trust hierarchical. Is that a
hierarchical.
word? Yeah, I don't trust hierarchy. I trust the most brilliant people I know are giving it away. Because they've got so much mastery. What are they going to do with it besides they get fulfilled by giving away their mastery? So I say this to say, so I learned in Kundalini about the arc line. Mm-hmm. I learned about how to push out your arc line for two reasons. Either I need protection, so I'm going to get really big, or I want to pull something towards me, and so I have to be in my magnificence. So I was in a very elite place in Paris and filled with wonder. It was so beautiful. The people there are so sexy, beautiful, elegant, and they're so effortlessly, those things, they're not even thinking about it. There was a man I wanted to meet, not as a lover, but just a powerful, interesting, sexy man running a big company.
Great.
And so I decided, I'm going to see if this Kundalini works. And so I just was sitting in the corner in my beautiful dress. I do this a lot if I'm alone.
Oh my gosh,
because normally
this.
I have social anxiety.
That's amazing.
So when I have social anxiety, I learned, like, don't be on your phone. Sweat it out, girl. Have your social anxiety, but be here enough that someone could approach you and then you won't be alone. Mm-hmm. And I just mean, like, if I have to walk into a party or a public event or something I want to be at. So I'm in the corner. I'm in my beautiful dress. Which is mandatory in Paris, and I want to meet this guy. So I practice Kundalini while I'm sitting in the corner, my arc line, I'm just seeing gold all around me. I'm the bomb.
I love this.
The man never looks at me, never comes over to me. My experiment doesn't work. Then I go to a restaurant, and my friend and I go, I'm going to wait for you to come. And he goes, meet me at the restaurant. I go, no, I want to wait, because I don't want to walk in the restaurant alone. He goes, would you please just go there Who's there? The president of France. Who do I get introduced to? The president of France. Who do I have the most amazing conversation with about love, destiny, and what else did we talk about? God. His Secret Service people at a certain moment tried to go, okay, she's had enough. And he went, no, this conversation is really interesting. And my friend is listening going, you're talking about the president of France, about God, destiny, and his love life. And I'm like, that's what's on my mind. And I thought, wow, I was trying to use my arc line to meet that guy because he's the president of this. But
that's fascinating. That's fascinating.
Yeah. So I want to say this shit works.
Way higher destiny.
Yeah. This shit works.
Destiny. Totally. Yeah. I want to ask you in closing this last question, just if there was one moment or one practice or two moments or two practices or three or whatever that really turned you on, that put you on your destiny direction, or just the things that you're like, oh, here I am, I'm alive, I'm a light, I'm on. This is the turn on here.
What a great question. What a great question. It's so easy when you're doing a condensed version of your life to look like you have it all together, but really, I would credit the life I have today with the Kundalini weekend that was going to be a 9-month program. I really believe in dedicated practice. Why? Repetition, 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 number one. Number two, you need allies who are holding you accountable to help you get to your dreams, who have no stake in whether you get there or not, but who want it for you. Oh, that's another thing I'll just leave with. When I do prayers for people, I say to them, I want this for you with my whole heart. We don't need other people. What do you think of my prayers? We need other people who go without reservation. I want what you want for yourself with my whole heart. So that little pod existed in this. You don't have to agree with my dream. Just want it for me. And then we had to write bucket lists. And I had a bucket list of what my heart's desires for. And I looked at it probably once a week. And number 2 on the bucket list was go to Paris to see Christmas lights. I wrote it in September. By December 6th, I hadn't done number 2 on my bucket list. And so I did it because I had made a commitment to do it and because I'd really been looking at my goals. I look at my goals all the time. And then this one, I did go. The 6 days turned into 25 days. The 25 days turned into 3.5 years. And now it's 6.5 years later.
I know. All of a sudden you were living in Paris.
Yeah, not all of a sudden.
I know.
But all of a sudden, yeah, I didn't go there with a dream to live in Paris. I wanted to see Christmas lights.
Yeah, we didn't get into like any of the sort of like all, drag out sort of the difficult times. And I know that, sometimes again, when we're doing a condensed version, it does sound like, just
fairy tale. I have some fairy tale in me. Yeah. I do have a bit of a charm life in many areas, and then some areas I don't. So really, for me, Kundalini was the Statue of Liberty. Bring us your tired, your cold, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Everyone I know dragged their sorry ass into Kundalini because their life was falling apart. So
this is the truth.
Yeah. So I found an energy system that supports who I already was, and that's what I am now. I am an energy system that supports who other people really are. Yeah. And I believe in alchemy.
Yeah. So you would say that like a big turn on moment was the Kundalini.
100%.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I took to it just like when I met Gabrielle Roth and became a 5 Rhythms dancer.
Right.
I had done a meditation for 6 hours in the park where a guided meditation where every hour on the hour, the facilitator rang a bell and said, close your eyes and see what your soul looks like. And on the 7th hour, I saw this spinning gold, and then the gold slowed down. And I said, my soul is a dancer. And then someone gave me Gabrielle Roth's book, Sweat Your Prayers. And then I found her because she happened to be teaching a workshop in California. And then I danced with her until she passed. And I'm still dancing. So, yeah, my soul is a dancer. The guy who introduced me to family constellation work, he paid for me to go there because I thought it was going to be therapy, you know.
Right.
The reason why I went to Paris was to see Christmas lights. There's something about self-expression that if you take even a tiny little step towards your destiny, the whole world will rise up to meet you, as will your allies.
Yeah, absolutely. That part about that, the self being the most important thing. If you know who you are, knowing yourself, and that's a constant.
And other people will
exploration.
help you know who you are. I help people know who they are, and I equally help them know who they're not. But this concept of allies, this is I really can when I meet people, I know if they're a we people or a me people. Not everyone is a we people. Some people are me peoples. So it helps to be a we people if you want allies.
Yeah, absolutely. Andrea, thank you so much for coming and having this conversation with me. I feel like this is really, really deep and intense and steamy and powerful, and that anybody listening gets to have sort of a peek into their own spaces of how these things land in their own, bodies, and that they can take themselves on their own adventure, that it gives them fuel to take themselves on their own adventure.
Yeah.
And maybe come see you in Paris.
Well, they can see me in Paris or they can see me on FaceTime. But I guess what I want to say is we're not doing look at me.
Yeah.
We're doing you can do this too.
Yeah.
That would be our theme song.
I would say
it's
so.
It's not look at me. It's and you can do this too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're not doing, I don't want to do that. I want to say, let's look at you.
Yeah.
That's interesting to me.
Or you can do this too.
Yeah. You could do this too. And I like looking at you.
Yeah.
I want to look at you. That's more interesting to me. Thank you so much, Andy. I love you so, so much. And
Merci. Avec grand plaisir.